since we were talking about the casino heist at Landing International and dipping into the waters of the Jeju Free International Development Center, we figured it'd be better to invite someone onto the show who knows quite a bit more about it than both of us combined. So with us, Tommy Tran, a lecturer at University of California Merced, and Merced. Thank you very much. Merced. Is it French? What is it?
Spanish.
Spanish. Oh, makes sense.
Oh,
California.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
He's done quite a bit of research into Jeju Island, including into the island's identity and how it's been changing under forces similar to JDC. So thank you for joining us, Tommy. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome.
I guess we should get into it and say, so what exactly is the JDC and how has it changed the island?
Okay, so this is going to be a really complicated history, so I'm going to try to condense it as much as possible. So basically what the JDC is, it's a state-sponsored development corporation that was established officially in 2002. The original plan for the JDC actually began a little earlier. So already in 1999 to 2001, there was a special research project done by an American company, Jones Lang and LaSalle.
Oh, really?
And that consulting company was hired by the Kim Dae-jung regime to see the viability of creating a so-called special zone or free international city, as it later on became. So basically, the result of this report was that Jeju doesn't really have the kind of capacity to be something like Singapore or Hong Kong. The project itself was originally called the Hongkong Project.
Oh.
But despite that, they still push for the idea that Jeju could still be a hub in Northeast Asia because it could respond directly to the Chinese market. So where the JDC fits in all of this is that the JDC was created in order to facilitate the promotion of this project, the Free International City project. So in the official establishment of the Free International City project in 2002, that was done first by legal mandate by the South Korean government under the Ministry of Construction and Transportation, which is now the Land, Transportation and Infrastructure Ministry.
Wow.
And and basically the corporation was originally under that branch of the government.
So why did Jeju want to do that? Like, why did the government want to make Jeju a Singapore or Hong Kong?
This was also the fallout of 1997. So if you recall the IMF crisis in 1997. And actually, there are several attempts going all the way back to 1963, where they were thinking about making Jeju something like Korea's response to Hong Kong. But the reason why it didn't go in 1963 and then in 1983 was because simply Jeju had no capacity to compete with Hong Kong. It just doesn't have that name recognition. The location of the harbor does not really make any sense for a free trade zone. And also Jeju just simply doesn't have the capital.
Right.
So the project was nixed over and over again, even though every other decade they brought up the idea of probably exploring possibilities of making this happen. But then finally the IMF crisis happened and then everyone freaked out. And then now we have the Free International City.
Tommy, that's amazing that you can keep that all in your head, all that information. That's a lot of information. Like, good job.
This is what being a history professor does to you.
Right. You better have all those facts. Really fascinating. Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting because we had the IMF crisis and now we're in the middle of another crisis now, which may change how the JDC continues. Because I don't think people realize how huge the JDC is, right? Like when I started reporting on it, it was referred to as the 5+1 project, right? And would you say that is kind of the centerpiece of the JDC, or is it something else?
The 5+1 project?
Yeah. Like the JGs, like the education town, the healthcare town, and so forth.
Yeah. So when the JDC was established, the whole purpose in the beginning was to push ahead with 7 core projects. And it says 5+1, but there was the other project was actually to create a shopping outlet, but apparently that didn't really go through yet.
I haven't
So
heard
there,
that. Yeah.
there is a
Wow.
set of projects.
Wow.
Yeah, they don't refer to it as the 5+1 project anymore either. I haven't that term seems to be pretty much sponged from the internet. I can't find it anywhere. So,
Yeah.
and how do you think the JDC has affected Jeju as a whole so far?
The whole function of the JDC itself has been pretty weird from the beginning, because on the one hand, it was created to decentralize control from the central government, because up until the early 2000s, pretty much a lot of development planning was handled directly by the central government in Seoul. So it was
Right.
under the National Ministry of Land, Transportation, and Infrastructure. But then the JDC was created as a affiliate of that ministry in order to create plans and also promote the plans for the development of the free international city, with less and less direct interference from the central government. But then in 2006, basically what happened was that they eliminated the requirement of needing the presidential approval and just receiving approval from the ministry itself, while consulting would happen with the provincial assembly. So what happened was that a lot of decision-making and executive authority fell to institutions like the JDC and also the Jeju governor. So on the one hand, it decentralizes authority to a certain extent, but also creates a large central authority for Jeju specifically.
Right.
So it has this really paradoxical character that it handles everything on Jeju, even though
Right.
it's not really directly under the South Korean government.
Yeah, it is a massive, like I remember, well, like the offices and the people who are in charge of the JDC back from when I was actively covering it, it was just a massive, it was almost bigger than the Jeju government in itself, it felt like at times. You know. So the 5 projects, which is, how have they, like, a lot of our listeners will probably be people on Jeju who have come here post the creation of the JGEC. So I would like to explain to them how much the island has changed because of the JDC in such a short period of time. Can you explain some of the effects it has had on Jeju, like physically and monetarily and
It's interesting. Tommy just posted a Facebook comment earlier this morning talking about exactly this, about the potential of the airport and everything. So this is good timing.
Well, before I went on, I was looking actually at the latest development plans that created in 2017 and 2018. So those 2 plans are one's the provincial level plans for the entire province, and then the 2025 urban planning project. The funny thing is that they're saying the same things that they did all the way back in 2006, that they intend to create a so-called carbon-free island.
Right.
But the crazy thing is that these projects have been getting bigger and bigger and bigger every time the projects are revised. So I keep trying to figure out, why do they still hold on to this ideal that they're going to be carbon-free when, well, first off, a lot of the land has been reorganized as urban development zones. And interestingly, the mid-mountain region is supposed to be a protected region.
Right.
And recently, again, this is reiterated in the project planning itself, but there's also quite a number of development projects within the mid-mountain region. So within the plans themselves, there's these complete contradictory intentions. On the one hand, it's to supposedly preserve the green nature of Jeju.
Right.
It's completely doing the opposite.
Yeah, they actually, on their website, they promote, it's one of the main things that's on the JDC website, right? On the top, they talk about the global education city, and at the bottom, they talk about making an eco-friendly urban environment, which is, like you said, paradoxical. Now, I keep going back to the 5+1 because that's what I'm super familiar with, and I'm curious about what you think of how successful has the JDC been in its endeavor, in your opinion?
Well, I remember when I finished my dissertation in 2017, when I put in my conclusion is that I referred to it as a successful failure.
How so?
It's successful that it certainly did create a lot of new developments, and I mean the sheer amount of construction over the past decade, and since the time I first came to Jeju in 2006, it's just mind blowing.
Really, really.
But it's also a complete failure because it didn't resolve any of the environmental problems, even though this was the intention of the JDC project, that they were supposed to promote green growth. And the complete opposite is what is happening now.
Right. I know that, you know, in the past, like 2 years with, I think you mentioned between the mid-mountain range, I know that a lot of Koreans, especially my friends, have taken to protesting. I guess, are they trying to build a road, Tommy?
Yeah.
So a lot of Korean groups and a lot of environmentally friendly groups have taken to protesting, and they have like quite a following that go on a regular basis and just set up, and they have like a little hut in the woods and everything, and they set up these large scale protests nonstop for the last couple years in that area. It's quite interesting to watch.
Yeah, that's a highway expansion project. So
okay.
Yeah, so over the past few years, there's been a push to upgrade Jeju's road infrastructure because well, obviously
not handling the traffic.
Yeah, with the spike in traffic just in 2014 to 2017, clearly the Jeju's roads are no longer capable of handling the traffic they were designed for.
Clearly, you can tell that by my road rage every time I drive. Yes.
And is that the expansion of cars? Is that a direct result of the JDC and its projects, or is that you know, extrapolating too much?
In a way, it is related because in the JDC project, they did promote the idea of pushing for 11 million tourists a year, and that was revised again in 2017 because it went way beyond that in just 2015, 2016 alone.
Yeah.
So they are still preparing for more than tens of millions of tourists, and again, the idea is to prepare for the eventuality that Jeju as a province would reach somewhere around a population of 720,000, give or take.
Wow.
With an additional 140,000 long-term tourists living on the island.
Wow.
Yeah, I heard the intention was to have at least, this was a while back, 1 million people residents on the island. And then that has to do mainly with like the economy, to keep capital flowing, to have, you know, funds on the island. Now, what ways? Continue. Sorry.
You know, one thing I wanted to ask you guys, because both of you are much more historians than I think than I am, and then some of our average listeners. Before you guys go on, you keep talking about 5 projects or so. So we know the GEC was one project, and then Daryl, you had mentioned like the casino landing. I wonder, what are the other projects? Is the casino part of the JDC project? What are the 5?
The casino originally was not part of the JDC project.
Okay.
That was and that's probably one of the reasons why it became controversial, because it wasn't legally set.
I remember that scandal. I remember that. Yeah. Okay.
So I have actually have the original plans right here with me.
Oh, so, nice. Yeah, because I'm really curious. What was the original plan and what has it become now?
Yeah. So let me just have a look through what the best were. So the first one was supposed to be a leisure condominiums in Yere. So
that's
supposed to be. Leisure condominiums, not a casino.
Right. That's the Berjaya. That's the Berjaya boondoggle, which is now
an empty,
shuttered concrete mess and a hole.
It's fascinating to go down there. It's fascinating. Yeah.
And that's called, that's the resort complex. That's the resort complex.
Okay.
The second one is a Jungmun Tourism Complex. So that one is set to expand anyway. It's well, it had several phases of expansion since its completion in the early 70s. So that's the ever evolving project.
I had no idea that was part of it. Okay, so 3.
So the next one is a Seogwipo Harbor.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's why you have the bridge down there now.
Yeah, that's why that's on bridge. That was part of the project.
Oh, I will say that is beautiful. It's one of my favorite parts of the island, but you don't really see a whole lot of people going there. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
But it is beautiful.
Honestly, it's a very odd location for a harbor because it's not really a protected harbor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, okay. Jeju has no protected harbors, which is.
I thought. Okay. Yeah. Is that island that it goes to what we call the Bird Island? Is that protected?
As in a natural harbor. That's what.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Jeju has no natural harbor, basically.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for any visitors coming, I highly recommend you go down to that. It is absolutely beautiful area, the island, and at nighttime when it's lit up, it's really quite something.
Yeah, that's the only project I actually like.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. The other ones bring up a lot of really really negative feelings. Like I was about to say mixed feelings, but no, I just feel negative.
I have similar ones, right? So you had the healthcare, you have the JGC, you have the Yere Resort, you have and this is going to be more than the 5+1, by the way, when it originally started. And then you have the Sogipo, and what's next?
The next one is the tech park.
The tech park.
The science park, which exists, and it's which is where the JDC is located.
Yeah,
behind Jeju National University.
Is this a push for the? Will this be something that the Jeju crypto is involved? Is that part of? Got it.
Yeah, so
that makes a connection to me. Okay.
Yeah. So this has become really one of the primary projects in the current revision of the Jeju City Plan and also the Jeju Special Self-Governing Province Plan. Is that they are pushing towards this move towards to high-tech industry.
Mm.
Wow. Okay. Not a bad. Tommy? Do you like that?
Huh? And again,
do you like this?
Yeah, pretty mixed feelings because I live near Silicon Valley and I've seen the housing crisis or the explosion of housing prices that happen when you live towards near a Silicon Valley type location.
So, but it hasn't taken on Jeju like it has there, right? Like Daum was here, but it left.
Yeah.
Oh, it left. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're still pushing it though. It's not really successful, honestly, but they're still pushing.
And this would hopefully create jobs for the young people here on Jeju.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I believe it was to diversify the economy here, so they wouldn't be just so dependent upon tourism and agriculture.
Right. And moving off the island.
Yeah, that's actually the rationale why they decided to push that, because they figured they couldn't depend on tourism forever. So
yeah.
So they need to diversify the economy in that way.
Okay. And what's the next one, Tommy?
Dun dun dun.
The free trade zone by Jeju International Airport.
Yeah. Yep. Nightmare, right?
Yeah. So that one has been under discussion for some time. And, basically, it's that area that's where the parking lot of Jeju International Airport is now. That area was supposed to be designated as a so-called free trade zone. So like the shopping outlets and the duty-free shops outside of Gimpo Airport, they want to create something for that.
Oh, in one area, because now they're kind of scattered around Jeju.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting.
To have it all together. Okay.
To have it all together.
Actually, I'm not familiar with that project at all. And the next one? The
shopping outlet. So that was that's one that's been mentioned, but it doesn't seem to have been going through lately.
Okay. Okay.
Where was that supposed to be located? Because I'm not familiar with that one.
It doesn't actually say where.
Yeah.
It got scrapped early on.
We're running out of places to put things. I'll be honest with you. There's only so many farms you can run down, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, and specifically, it is actually for Chinese tourists. So they were anticipating the Russian Chinese tourists pretty early.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Daryl, you had mentioned the casino. I don't know what your next question is, but I wanted to see you to tie it in. Tommy, you said the casino wasn't originally part of the project, but did that somehow get tied in now?
In the plans I've seen, no, it wasn't. It wasn't named in the project.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I heard you.
It's on the location where one of the next projects, which was the Myths and History theme park.
Yeah,
that was the original intention. You can still see signs when you go to Shinhwa theme park that it was originally supposed to be a myth and history. Which it's not that anymore. It's gone under. It was supposed to promote like Jeju history, I presume, and then over the years it's became Shinhwa
something else.
Is that correct?
Yeah, originally in the original plans it was supposed to be a theme park promoting Jeju culture and mythology. So
that would have been cool.
Morphed over time.
Yeah. Well, clearly.
And that's where the casino is located, because they're the ones that right. It's a foreigner only, foreigner run casino.
Right.
Now, one of the questions I wanted to ask you, connecting the two topics, is how does this situation, because Landing International has a spotted relationship on Jeju, and
Scandal, scandal, scandal.
and how does that reflect upon, or if it does at all, the JDC?
Interesting.
Well, honestly, part of the problem with the way the JDC handles things is that they have too much central authority over how they manage their project. Because yeah, the great irony is that they were created to remove some of that centralization from the South Korean government, but then they have a lot of oversight unto themselves, so they can act pretty much however they deem fit. So there's ironically, they were created to promote transparency, and the way they operate, that there isn't really much transparency.
No, it seems very secretive.
I'm really not surprised that these scandals happen, because there's really very little oversight on them.
Right. And is that because it is a foreign run like economic venue by a foreign company, or is that like, is it just because that's the way the situation is?
It goes that way,
yeah. Well, the reason is, again, because the JDC itself is the primary avenue to deal with foreign companies. So so any major project that involves Jeju, whether it's a foreign company or a domestic company, it has to go through the JDC, because they are the control tower for these large scale projects.
Interesting. Well, Tommy, now that you said, sorry, Daryl, now that you said that, if you could just clarify, now it was the removal from the government is what the JDC was created for. You mentioned that a couple of times. Well, then how do you get a job there? Is it an elected position? Who gets to be the top people making these decisions? Does the governor of Jeju hire these people? How does it come to be that you work there?
That's outside of my research area. Honestly.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, that's very interesting. I'm curious. I'll have to find that out.
Politicians, right? Like I believe that they're former.
I thought so.
Like former deputy ministers and
I thought so,
and that kind of thing.
So, but it's like, are they appointed or are they actually hired? So very interesting. Okay, we'll have to find that out.
Yeah, well, anecdotally, what I hear from my colleagues back in Jeju is that they do have a very, very close relationship with the Jeju government. So there could be that kind of thing going on.
Okay.
And another project is the healthcare town.
Yeah, the failed healthcare town.
Well, so is it failed completely, or is it in limbo now? Because to tell our listeners, what happened was it wasn't allowed to cater to Koreans, and the Chinese company that developed it got very upset with this because they wanted to be able to cater to everybody, and the government said no, only non-Koreans can be using this service. And it was supposed to open last year, but because of this situation, it did not. And they have now sued the JDC, as has Berjaya, for millions and millions of dollars because of the project. Do you know if this is advancing anyway, or where's it going?
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, I'm not sure what's going on with it. It's like, as you said, it's still in limbo. They got sued, and well, the litigation is still happening. I've not heard any determination yet of what's going to happen with that. But yeah,
it was in the news.
That also was one of the later core projects for the Free International City, along with the English City.
So, and now, where is it going? What is the JDC going to go in the future? What are your thoughts?
What are they going to go in the future? So basically, they are going to push for that tech park.
Okay.
So that's going to be the beginning of their push, sort of away from this dependency on tourism.
Okay.
And also, especially since the 2010s, a lot of the planning procedures for the development of Jeju province as a whole, so including the urban development project, the tourism development, so many sectors of Jeju planning is managed by the JDC. So they actually have a whole lot of control or a lot of influence on how development in general happens in Jeju.
Yeah. Well, so the tech center, especially now in the time of COVID, we really see what this island is like without tourists. So interesting to see, maybe because of this this crisis and pandemic, maybe we will see a quick push through with this tech center. Maybe. What do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely going for it. I haven't seen any revision to that plan yet.
Okay. Okay.
But the next big thing on their agenda is a second airport.
I don't even. We should have a whole nother Daryl. We should have a whole nother episode about this airport because
we'll have you. When we talk about the airport, we'll have you back on. Now,
for sure.
Before we wrap this up, I thought it'd be interesting to ask you, and Alexis, this is kind of what we were talking about earlier.
Okay.
Where does Hawaii of Korea come from?
Oh, I'm so glad you're asking this.
Yeah, so Hawaii of Korea. Well, according to the official tourism history, it began in 1966 when it was directly stated. And originally the term was Hawaii of East Asia, or in Korean, Dongyang Hawaii. So that was the first time it was explicitly stated as policy for Jeju's tourism development.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Now, and Tommy, you've actually seen that? Yeah. It actually was in 19. Okay. That dispels my theory. Okay, so good.
What was it mentioned in? Was it like the policy of how to brand Jeju, or what was the policy that mentioned it?
It's the policy direction for the future of Jeju. Basically.
That makes sense. Okay.
But do you imagine that it was like batted about before that then by locals, or?
Yeah, that's my suspicion, that it actually was in discussions for some time before it became explicitly stated in 1966. And part of the reason is because Seungman Rhee himself, he did stay in Hawaii while he was still in exile during the colonial period. And again, he was exiled to Hawaii after the Inglorious end to his government. So there was that probably that idea in their minds for some time. And indeed, in 1957, his vacation home was designated in Songdang Ranch. So there's some suspicions on the part of architectural historians that he is probably imagining Hawaii at that time.
Okay, well, that is really interesting.
Yeah, he had I believe he had a home here. He had a vacation home on the island. Which is fascinating.
He only went to it 4 times though.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's nice. Just stay there. Tommy, does the so just to finish this up about the Hawaii, the palm trees, of course, are not native to Jeju. But then in that case, were the palm trees around? Because the story is that an American soldier brought the palm tree over. It's not true?
No, that's not true.
Wow, there's so much misinformation. No. So what happened there? Is that part of why it's called Hawaii of Jeju?
The palm tree thing? Actually, I don't know.
Okay,
I reported on that a while back because I wanted to find the first palm tree on Jeju, and they're Washington palms that came from Seoul. There was a guy growing them on Seoul, and I haven't looked at the story in a while, but the first ones can be seen, and they're down in Iho Beach. Actually, they're just the first ones are just growing in a field like out there, and they were part of Park Chung-hee's plan to turn Jungmoon into a tourist island, like into Hawaii, to brand it as that term. So it's part of that initiative back from the 70s. I want to say.
So the name precedes the palm trees. Wow. Okay, that clears up a whole heck of a lot for us that don't have the knowledge.
So in Jungmoon, there is Ripley's Believe It or Not. And out front, they have a palm tree that they claim to be the first palm tree in Jeju.
It's big.
Which is wholly incorrect.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because that's what started my story. I was like, well, I want to find the first one. And Daryl, I did. The sun is
Daryl, you'll have to post the story when we post this video. Let's post that story with it. Wow, how much misinformation we know about this island. Yeah. Okay.
So, Tommy, is there anything else you else would like to add about the JDC or anything about that we've discussed today?
Well, one thing to add.
It's a weird question.
A lot of the things that we're seeing today has been long in the making. So as I mentioned, the idea for it goes way back to 1963, and it just happened that things happened to come together in the 1990s, and now here we are.
Right.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating to see, like, even I've been here since about 2008, 2009. And in that time, the record change has been astronomical. But more so since I would say since the JGC opened, right?
Oh,
The amount
absolutely.
of wealth that has now come to the island, the amount of
Yeah.
development, the amount of international companies. It's crazy. It's going to be interesting to see what comes in the future, and we'll have you on again. Thank you very much, Tommy. It's been really a pleasure to speak to you and
Yeah, it's nice to
delve
see your
into your wealth
face.
of
thank you.
knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Well,
We're definitely going to have you on again, because now I just want to pick your brain about all these what is the word I'm trying to look for? Like not true facts that apparently are stored in my head. I need to just like make a list of things I think I know, and then you and Daryl are going to just be like, yes, no, yes, no. That's gonna be an episode.
Yeah, just a
Thanks,
yes, no
Tommy.
episode.
Yeah,
Thanks.
exactly.
Yeah, and we don't want to take up too much more of your time. Have a great day, Tommy.
Thank you, Tommy. Ciao.
Bye.